The flames licked higher as your enemies frantically fed documents into the fire, desperation etched across their face. They believed themselves clever, methodical in destroying every trace of their misdeeds against you. What they didn't know was that eyes had already witnessed their calculated cruelty. A silent observer had seen it all, the scheming, the sabotage, the ruthless attempts to dismantle everything you built. In the shadows of their arrogance, they never noticed the divine ledger where every transgression was recorded. No amount of ash could erase what had been written there. The universe had already shifted, justice set in motion by forces beyond human manipulation. You, the chosen one, may have suffered in silence, but heaven's patience had worn thin. The scales that had tilted against you for so long were now being balanced by an unseen hand. What your enemy failed to understand was simple yet profound. Some debts cannot be erased, some witnesses cannot be silenced. They thought no one was watching. They thought their crimes would dissolve into the night, swallowed by silence, erased by fire. But the truth has eyes, and those eyes have seen everything. Hidden in the shadows, the witness stood frozen, breath shallow, heart-pounding, watching as the enemies burned the last remnants of their betrayal. The flames danced wildly, devouring the evidence, but the crime had already been committed. The witness had already seen too much. At first, fear gripped them. Who were they to speak against such darkness? The enemy's was powerful, calculated, and ruthless. They had already destroyed so much. What was to stop them from silencing one more voice? The weight of the truth pressed heavily against the witnesses. Jest, a secret too dangerous to hold yet too sacred to let go. They had two choices: remain silent and let injustice fester, or step forward and face the storm. Silence was tempting. It was safe. To remain unseen, to pretend they had never been there, to walk away and let the fire consume not just the evidence, but also the burden of responsibility. This was the easy path. But something deep within them refused to yield. The truth does not vanish simply because it is ignored. It lingers, whispering in the dark corners of the mind, growing heavier with each passing moment. And the witness could feel it. The slow, suffocating weight of inaction creeping into their soul. Their mind replayed what they had seen, the deliberate destruction, the smug confidence of the enemies as they fed lie after lie into the flames. Believing themselves untouchable, the witness clenched their fists. This was not just about justice, this was about something greater, something divine. If they did not speak, who would? If they did not act, who else would hold the wicked accountable? The decision did not come all at once. It unfolded like the breaking of dawn, gradual, inevitable. There would be consequences, but there would be something far worse than fear, regret. The knowledge that they had the power to bring truth to. Light yet chose to let darkness reign. No, that was not an option. The witness had seen, and now they would make sure the world saw too. But how does one expose evil without becoming its next target? The witness knew they had to be careful. They couldn't simply walk up to the enemies and declare their knowledge. That would be foolish. No, this required precision. It required patience. The enemies had made one fatal mistake. They believed themselves alone. They believed their crime had vanished in the embers, but their arrogance would be their downfall. The witness would not act rashly, but they would act. There was power in waiting, power in gathering strength, in choosing the right moment. The enemies had operated under the assumption that no one would challenge them. The witness would make sure that assumption cost them everything. For now, they remained in the shadows, unseen, unnoticed. But that would not last forever. Truth cannot be buried. It does not drown, does not burn, does not die. It only waits for its time, and time was running out for the enemies. They believe they have won. The evidence is gone, turned to ash, scattered into the wind. No trace remains, at least that's what they tell themselves. They move with arrogance, convinced that they have covered their tracks, that their crimes have been erased. Their lips curl into a satisfied smirk, their shoulders relax, their heartbeat steadies. In their mind, the threat is over. The chosen ones have been silenced. The past has been rewritten. They celebrate in secret, toasting to their own cunning, laughing at the supposed foolishness of those they deceived. They walk with confidence, their steps light, their voices laced with mockery. They believe they have outmaneuvered fate itself, that they have manipulated destiny in their favor. Their delusion is their comfort, their ignorance a shield. But what they do not realize is that their false sense of security is the very thing that will destroy them. They think they are untouchable, but they are being watched. They think the truth has been burned away, but it lingers in the air, in the memories of those who saw, in the divine record that cannot be altered. Justice does not slumber. It does not lose its way or forget the cries of the wronged. It moves with precision, guided by a force beyond human understanding. The chosen ones may have suffered in silence, but heaven's patience has worn thin. The weight of every betrayal, every act of cruelty, has tipped the scales, and now the balance must be restored. The enemies continues to revel in their illusion of victory, but unseen hands have already begun their work. The very forces they sought to manipulate are now turning against them. Their victories were stolen, their success built on deceit. But stolen crowns do not sit firmly upon the head. What was gained through treachery will be lost through justice. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him. The chosen ones do not need to lift a hand in vengeance. The decree has already been issued from the highest authority. The enemies will not see it coming, but the fall is inevitable. The very power they trusted to protect them will betray them. The very lies they told will unravel before their eyes. The punishment will not come by mortal hands, but by the divine hand that never forgets, never overlooks, and never allows the wicked to reign forever. And so the chosen ones wait, not with fear, not with doubt, but with unwavering certainty. Justice is not a possibility, it is a promise. The enemy's time is running out, and soon they will understand the cost of their crimes. Too late, their fate is sealed, they will pay. The enemies believed they had covered their tracks. The fire consumed the documents, the lies buried the truth, and silence wrapped around their crimes like an unbreakable chain. But what they failed to realize is that some evidence cannot be burned. Some truths refuse to die. A single overlooked detail, a whisper in the dark, a record they thought had been erased. These become the cracks in their foundation. The destruction they so meticulously orchestrated begins to work against them. What they tried to hide starts to surface, piece by piece, forming a trail that leads straight back to them. They thought they were clever, but their arrogance blinded them to their own mistakes. Perhaps it is a document they overlooked, a testimony they failed to silence, or a witness they never knew existed. Perhaps it is something as small as a timestamp, a misplaced signature, or a word spoken in the wrong place at the wrong time. It does not matter how insignificant it seems. The unraveling has begun, and nothing can stop it now. Panic sets in. They scramble to control the damage, to spin a new web of deception, but it is no use. The more they struggle, the more tangled they become. Their confidence turns to doubt, their arrogance to fear. The very forces they manipulated to rise are now the same forces pulling them down. Truth is relentless. It is patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And when it does not whisper, it roars. The enemy's watches as their empire of lies crumbles, as the darkness they wielded turns against them. They thought they could rewrite the past, but the past is not so easily erased. The chosen ones do not need to act in haste. They do not need to force justice, because justice is already in motion. The evidence, once hidden, is emerging on its own. The enemies sealed their fate the moment they believed they could escape accountability. They thought they had won. They thought the truth was dead, but the truth cannot be destroyed. And now it is coming for them. Stop right there. Yes, you. This message isn't for everyone, and if you don't feel it, that's fine. Move along. But if you've felt it deep in your bones, you'll know this is for you. The ones who don't fit in, the ones who see beyond the veil, the ones who've been told to stay quiet, to settle, to conform, but never could. They aren't interested in what's ordinary. They aren't here to follow someone else's rules. They're the light in the dark, the storm that shatters illusions, the unshakable, the unstoppable, the untouchable. While the world is busy running circles, they're walking their own path, alone if they must. Not for the applause, not for the approval, but because it's who they are. Here's to the ones who take what was meant to destroy them and transform it into something divine. The ones who carry wisdom that can't be taught, only earned. If this resonates with you, then maybe it's time to find your people. The Obsidian Inner Order is the only place of its kind. The #1 Ascension Nexus for chosen ones. Where over 400 of us gather to share wisdom, connect and transform. No masks, no games, just truth. The link is in the description. If you're ready, you'll know where to find us. If not, that's fine too. The choice is yours. For too long, the witness remained in the shadows, holding onto a truth too heavy to bear alone. Fear had gripped them, fear of retaliation, fear of standing alone against the powerful. But silence is a prison, and the weight of knowing had become unbearable. The moment had come. They could not hide any longer. With steady resolve, the witness steps forward. Their voice, once trembling, now carries the force of truth. The enemies had counted on their silence, believing intimidation would be enough to bury the past. But they miscalculated. The witness had seen too much, and now the world would too. Their testimony is the turning point. The pieces begin to fall into place, the lies begin to unravel, and the enemy feels the walls closing in. What was once a carefully guarded secret is now exposed under the unforgiving light of truth. The witness, once afraid, now stands unshaken, knowing that their courage has shifted the course of justice. And the enemies, they see it now. The evidence they burned, the deception they spun, the fear they relied on. It was never enough. The truth has found its voice, and nothing can silence it now. The enemies feels it now, the shift, the unraveling, the inescapable weight of consequence pressing down on them. What once felt like victory now tastes like dust in their mouth. Their deception, once so carefully constructed, is crumbling at their feet. The power they clung to has become a noose tightening around their own neck. Desperation takes hold. They scramble to regain control, to spin new lies, to silence the voices rising against them. But it is useless. The witness has spoken, the chosen ones have moved, and the truth no longer bows to their manipulation. Everywhere they turn, doors are closing. The same people who once stood by them in fear now step away, unwilling to be dragged down with them. They had believed themselves untouchable. They had laughed in the face of justice, convinced that their sins had been erased with fire. But what they failed to understand was that justice is not merely a human construct, it is a law written into the very fabric of existence. And now that law demands payment. The world watches as the enemies falls. Some shake their heads in disbelief, others in quiet satisfaction. This is what happens to those who build their kingdom on deception. The collapse is never slow, never gentle. It is sudden, merciless, and absolute. This is not misfortune. This is not coincidence. This is karma in motion, justice long overdue, and there is no escaping it now. Too late. They will pay. You have endured. You have fought battles that should have broken you, suffered betrayals meant to silence you, and walked through fire meant to consume you. Yet here you stand, unshaken, undefeated, victorious. The enemy thought they had won. They thought their schemes had erased you, that their deception had rewritten your story. But what they failed to understand is that you were never meant to be destroyed. You were meant to rise. This victory is not just about justice. It is about proving that no force of darkness, no manipulation, and no betrayal can strip you of what is rightfully yours. The enemies believed they could take everything from you, your voice, your strength, your future. But what is divinely appointed cannot be stolen. They tried to bury you, but you were a seed. They tried to silence you, but your truth refused to be erased. And now everything they built on lies has crumbled beneath them, while you remain standing. This was never about revenge. You did not have to scheme or manipulate, did not have to beg for justice. You only had to hold your ground, knowing that truth fights for itself. What was taken from you has been restored, not because you demanded it, but because it was always meant to be yours. The scales have been balanced, the battle has been won, and through it all, you never lost yourself. Every scar you carry is proof of your strength. Every wound they inflicted became a lesson, a stepping stone, a mark of endurance. They thought they were breaking you, but they were only refining you. They thought you were losing, but you were only being prepared. You are not just a survivor. You are a conqueror. You have proven that patience is not weakness, that faith is not foolishness, and that justice, though it may take time, is inevitable. And now, the enemy watches from the ruins of their own downfall, realizing too late that you were never meant to fall. Their arrogance blinded them to the truth. You were always going to win, not through deceit, not through desperation, but through resilience, wisdom, and divine favor. This is your victory, not just over them, but over doubt, over fear, over every force that tried to convince you that you were not enough. You have reclaimed your power not with vengeance, but with certainty. You did not simply win, you overcame. This battle was never just about your enemy. It was never just about their deception, their cruelty, or their desperate attempts to erase the truth. This was about you, your strength, your resilience, your unshakable faith in the face of adversity. Every attack against you was meant to break you, but instead, it revealed who you truly are. You are not weak. You are not powerless. You are not at the mercy of those who scheme in the dark. Every setback was a setup for something greater, every betrayal a lesson in discernment, every delay a reminder that divine timing is always perfect. Justice may not always come when you expect it, but it always comes when it is meant to. Your enemies believed they could control the outcome, but they never had the final say. The pain they inflicted was real, but it was not permanent. Their power was temporary, their victories illusions. You, however, are built on something eternal. That is why you endured. That is why you are still standing. That is why you have won. So take these lessons with you. Trust that when injustice rises against you, it is only a matter of time before it falls. Know that your silence in suffering is not weakness, but patience. And remember that you are not just anyone. You are chosen, protected, and destined for victory. This was never just a fight. It was a testament to who you are, and you have already proven that nothing can destroy you. No matter how carefully the wicked plan, no matter how thoroughly they cover their tracks, justice will always find them. They may laugh today, convinced they have escaped judgment, but time is not on their side. What is done in darkness will always be brought to light. What they tried to erase will rise against them. And when the hour of reckoning comes, no power, no lie, no deception will be enough to save them. You have seen this truth unfold before your eyes. You have endured the trials, felt the weight of injustice, and watched as your enemies believed they had won. But look at where you stand now. Their laughter has turned to silence. Their confidence has crumbled into fear. The very schemes they crafted have become the instruments of their downfall. Because justice is not an illusion, it is a law, unbreakable and absolute. It does not need your help to act. It does not need permission to move. When the time is right, justice comes like a storm, swift and undeniable, bringing with it the consequences that were always inevitable. And so you do not need to chase revenge. You do not need to lower yourself to the level of those who sought to destroy you. Your strength has never been in retaliation, but in endurance. You have already won, not just because your enemies have fallen, but because you never surrendered. To the darkness that tried to consume you, let this be your reminder. The wicked may run, but they cannot hide. They may scheme, but they cannot escape. And as for you, the chosen ones, you will always rise, untouched and victorious. Justice has prevailed, and it always will.